There was an overwhelmingly support, I think, not just the majority, but all of the members that were here present and those that were able to share with us before they left, that we should protect the female category. And with that, we are going to revisit the eligibility category, not revisit, that we're going to actually set up a working group made up of experts and international federations. It was agreed by the members that the IOC should take a leading role in this, and that we should be the ones to bring together bring together the international federations and ensure that we find consensus. We understand that there will be differences depending on the sports, but it was fully agreed that as members and as the IOC, we should make the effort to place emphasis on the protection of the female category, and that we should ensure that this is done in consensus with all the stakeholders.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So Imane Khalif has no intention of going quietly when it comes to competing in the women's category. This is despite the next Olympics being right here in the US, where Trump has signed an executive order and vowed to keep men out of women's sports. Khalif said that has nothing to do with me because I am not transgender, and made it clear of having every intention to compete in the 2028 Olympics. Imane is now quoting Winston Churchill and indicating every intention to carry on being successful in women's boxing, if you can call cheating a success. The IOC, under this new president, could not have given a clearer message. It's committed to protecting the women's category. And that means ensuring that no male athletes are able to infiltrate the category and repeat what happened last year, where we had 2 male athletes receive gold medals in women's boxing. Not only did they receive medals, they did that by punching a bunch of female athletes in the face, some of whom have said that they were hit like they've never been hit before. So it is welcomed news that the IOC are committed to protecting the female category. How they go about that still remains to be seen. Many are calling for them to bring back sex screening, a practice that has been incorporated by World Athletics, a practice that the IOC used to implement before doing away with it in the 90s. And ever since then, women have lost out on 900 medals to male athletes who have no business competing in the women's category, especially in boxing. Safety needs to be a priority of the IOC, safety and fairness. But Imane Khalif doesn't care about that. Khalif is only concerned about Khalif. Khalif is only concerned about what Khalif wants. And this person wants another gold medal. Now, I understand that Khalif is not transgender. This is a person born with disorders of sex development. But have you noticed? Khalif is very vocal, unlike Lin Yuting, who we haven't really heard from since the Olympics. Khalif is defiant, and there's no regard for the safety of the female athletes. There's no regard for fairness. All that matters is that I want another gold medal. And I want to be able to compete in the women's category despite being a male athlete. So Khalif has spoken out for the first time after the International Olympic Committee announced new rules to protect the female category in Olympic sports. Not only does Khalif have to contend with the IOC and its new commitment to protecting the female category, Khalif has to contend with Trump. Since the Olympics are going to be here in 2028, Khalif has to contend with not being able to get a visa. And if you are a male athlete trying to come here to compete in the women's category, you will not be granted a visa, regardless of the IOC's rules and how quick they are in implementing the protections that need to be put in place. So it cuts off the issue at the source, if you ask me. You can't even come here to compete in the first place. So both Khalif and Lin Yuting failed multiple gender eligibility tests conducted by the IBA.
I'm trying to say that the medical result medical result looks and check the laboratories that this boxer is male.
We've seen the results. Khelif has been confirmed to have XY chromosomes and the anatomy of a male. So this is indisputable. But it doesn't matter. Even Khelif's coach admitted that there were, quote, problems with the chromosomes. Yet went on to say that Khelif should still be allowed to compete in the women's category because this person is seen as a woman, so what does it matter? But the IOC are forming a working group that will be tasked with safeguarding women's sports. And the new IOC policy is expected to ban transgender athletes, as well as those with differences of sexual development. So I've heard it referred to in both ways, differences of sexual development or disorders of sex development. It means that a person is male, yet born with abnormalities. Same thing can happen to female babies as well. But either way, you still fall under the male or female category. And Khelif has a condition that only affects males, similar to that of Caster Semenya, 5 reductase deficiency, I believe it's called. In a post on Monday, Khelif wrote in an Instagram story, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." The post also included the song "I'm Still Here" by Sia. And you can see the look of defiance. Again, no amount of makeup, no amount of filters makes this person female. So of course you're allowed to post whatever you want to post, whatever you choose to post. You can post whatever inspirational quote you want to post, and people are going to interpret it in different ways. What this looks like to me is Khelif saying, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going quietly, I'm here to stay. Now, if that means in the men's category, in men's boxing, great. I'm sure a lot of people will support that. But if you're talking about the female category, absolutely not. People are not going to want to see a repeat of Paris 2024, especially not here in the US, where Trump is the president who signed an executive order that says keeping men out of women's sports. Khelif was assigned female at birth. Now, in this case, not assigned, it's not the doctor who decides whether you're male or female. However, when someone is born with abnormalities and it's not completely clear, then they may be classed as the wrong sex. And clearly, in Khelif's case, if it's true that this person was actually labelled female, Khelif was classed as the wrong sex. And it does happen. I have heard of this happening.
Firstly, there's a lot of confusion in the reporting around this. Obviously, there have been some cases in the past where women born as women have naturally high testosterone levels, and sometimes there have been cases where it's transgender women. Do we know which it is in this case?
It's never about naturally high testosterone levels in women. When they talk about females with these high testosterone levels, they're really talking about males with disorders of sex development. And in some cases, rarely happens in developed countries, but in some cases, babies born with these disorders are wrongly labeled as female. And then they grow up and go through male puberty, and everyone then knows they're male. They have, I don't know these two individuals in particular, but this is well documented now, for example, with Caster Semenya, that they have internal testes, they produce testosterone, they go through puberty, they have all those advantages. And frankly, the prospect of these people boxing against women, if they are male, is terrifying.
So Khelif was competing in women's boxing way before the Olympics, but there were questions raised and doubt raised about this person's biological sex. Female boxers who trained with Khelif had questions, simply because Khelif was able to punch a lot harder than their female competitors. Khelif performed a certain way that was more indicative of somebody who was male. But I guess it was brushed to the side until the IBA decided that these two boxers had to go through a gender eligibility test to ensure that they were eligible to compete in the female category. And they failed those tests. And they were banned from competing in the World Championships in 2023. But the IOC decided to ignore that. The IOC decided to bury its head in the sand, I guess, because by then they had allowed the national governing bodies to make their own decision about whether they allow male athletes to compete in the women's category, whether they allow gender identity to determine whether a male athlete competes against women. So the IOC basically allowed males to compete in the women's category. So how would it look if they turned around and banned Imane Khelif, banned Lin Yuting? So they doubled down and allowed them to compete in the Paris 2024 Olympics. And we saw the results of that. A complete and utter dangerous spectacle before our very eyes. We saw the injustice against the women, against the female competitors. And they will accuse people like me of spreading misinformation simply because I believed the IBA's test results. So it was 3 Wire Sports that published leaked test results from 2023, which showed that Imane had XY chromosomes. New International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry said during her first meeting that there would be no action taken retrospectively in regards to past results that were in question. It was during the same meeting that Coventry announced her plan to have the IOC address the issue of transgender athletes competing in female sports. I know a lot of people will be disappointed to hear that. They do not plan on stripping Khalif or Lin Yuting of those gold medals. Now, to be fair, it was the IOC who allowed them to compete. So then to turn around and strip them of the medals, of course they're going to say, that's discrimination. I was competing under eligibility rules that the IOC set. Those female athletes deserve better. They deserve the gold medals that they earned fairly, if not for being forced to compete against a male athlete. So the women who missed out on gold medals, the women who missed out on bronze medals, getting a medal in the first place, they should be compensated, especially considering competing in the Olympics for many is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Maybe they'll get 2 opportunities, but it's not an opportunity that comes around very often, is it? Especially since it's every 4 years. So we shall see what comes of this panel of experts, this working group that's going to seek to protect the female category. I would rather she says we're going to introduce cheek swabs. This is something we used to do decades ago. We're going to bring it back. I would rather she said that and leave it as that. So let me know what you think. Do you think Khalif was being defiant? Or maybe Khalif was just trying to put out an inspirational message? And do you think Khalif has every intention of competing in the 2028 Olympics? Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.